Well, um, as I'm recording this, a year ago today, I was in Chicago. Um, I had a court date. It was Valentine's Day, and it was cold and snowy, and all the things I hate about Chicago come to come to life. The last thing I want to be, the last place I want to be, is in Chicago in February. If I didn't have to be, and in this case, I had to be. I was there to get custody of my brother, to get guardianship, not custody. I should clarify, guardianship of my brother, um, who is disabled. He was mentally disabled, and he's 11 years younger than me. And my mother was his guardian, but she passed away in 2018. So uh, the court demanded I come to Chicago in person. Um, they would not do it by phone. They would only allow me to come in person to become his guardian. So, uh, before I, before I go down that route, I just want to talk about uh, something I've not talked about on this channel or anywhere else on the internet. I haven't talked about my birth family, um, my mother in particular. We, my brother and I are we have different fathers. We're 11 years apart. Um, my mother and I were not close. Um, it's not for a lack of me trying to be close to her. I spent my I'm 63 now. I spent my pretty much my entire life trying to have a relationship with her. Um, um, a real relationship, I should say. I mean, we had a relationship, but it was a very subordinate kind of a thing. She never accepted me as um, I became an adult. She never accepted me as an adult. She it was always a very hierarchical thing going on with her, and uh, I was always the kid. I would never be, like many people have adult children and they treat them as equals, as okay, well, I respect your opinion. Um, here's my opinion. It was none of that. It was like I've spoken. You are still my child, and you will obey me, which is what I was raised to do my entire life. Um, my brother was born 11 years after me, and my father is long gone in the wind. He abandoned us when I was like maybe a one or less. I don't remember him at all in childhood. Uh, my brother's father, uh, they, my mother and him broke up probably within a year or two of him being born. So she was a single parent, um, struggling as all single mothers do, trying to raise us. I had no idea at the time what she was going through because she would never share anything with me. She would just only pretty much just give, I don't know, like edicts, just like, okay, you know, I need to do, I need to do this for me, or I need you to go here for me, or that kind of a thing, um, and I don't remember at any point in my childhood her saying "I love you" or giving me a hug. I don't remember that. I mean, if it happened, I just don't remember. I don't remember. The only time that began is when I initiated it into adulthood, and I started to try to, you know, bridge the gap between us. And I would just tell her I love you, and I would give her a hug as I would leave. And after a while, she would, when she felt, you know, okay, she would participate in that. She would also give me a hug and say I love you. Problem is, I did not know for a long time that she was suffering from a mental illness. What kind, I don't know, because once again, she didn't share this stuff with me. So I had to deduce all this stuff just from my own detective work of piecing things together from the past. Nobody in the family knew anything about it. They did. They didn't. They wouldn't tell me anything about it. This is the kind of thing a lot of families, especially black families, they keep. This is something that's just taboo. It's not talked about. You know, it's like, oh, you crazy. This is like a joke. You know, in fact, she would often say, like, I'm not crazy. And I would say, I know you're not crazy. I would never call you that. But there was something going on there, nonetheless. Um, and and I saw signs of it as a kid. But I thought, because you don't have anything to compare it to. That's your parent. This is your God. This is what you hold up as the person who keeps a roof over your head and gives the orders around the house, and she ruled with an iron hand. My grandmother helped to raise me. My grandmother would be home making sure I did homework when I didn't have homework. She made sure I brought books home when there was no books. When there was no homework, I would bring books home and do homework anyway, which probably was good because in Chicago's public school system, a lot of people just passed through it and didn't learn anything. So my grandmother she only had a sixth grade education. It was very important to her that I educate myself. You're gonna learn stuff, and to the best of her ability, she would help me with spelling and stuff like that. My mother was working full time at the post office, usually 3 to 11 were her normal hours. She would work at nights, and she would come home around midnight. After taking the train home most of the time. She'd get a ride sometimes, but she usually take the train home through the streets of Chicago at night for many years, and just pretty much just go to sleep. And I would see her maybe in the morning if I would ask for lunch money when I was of that age. Give me, the time was like I could get like a lunch ticket from one of the kids at school who would sell their lunch tickets for like a quarter. And I would, okay, here's a quarter. So I get like a quarter a day for for lunch, and she'd go back to sleep. Because she's got to go to work at 3. So, man, it wasn't like she didn't provide, but she just wasn't close. She kept a wall. She kept a barrier for sure, and ruled with sternness and punishment when she deemed necessary, and she deemed that necessary quite a bit. I was, so I got whoopings, as they used to say, whoopings, which just means getting beaten, as they say now, in common terms, and what it really is. I was beaten with extension cords. I used to have a Hot Wheels set, the orange track. Sometimes a Hot Wheels track segment was used as a form of discipline. And I thought I was a pretty good kid, actually. I thought I wasn't. I was forbidden from. I just go to work, go to school, and come home and do my schoolwork, and that was it. I was forbidden from going out to play with other kids. So all through childhood, I never played with kids other than at school in recess. After school, I'd come right home, do my homework, maybe watch some TV if I'm lucky, and go to bed. Do it all over again. And this went on until like my late high school days. So she ruled with a lot of authority, but not a whole lot of love. And my grandmother, bless her heart, who I know also loved me, was not a super affectionate person either, but she was fair. She seemed to be fair. I got much less whippings from her than I got from my mother. Um, but so fast forward years down the road, um, my mother started to move a lot. She moved from. Some people don't move more than once in a lifetime. It was not uncommon for. I know when I was with when I was coming up, we moved about 4 times when I was in before I left high school. Um, I didn't realize what the meaning of all that moving was about. I thought she just found a better place. Yeah, sorry, moving. She just found a better place. We're going from one place to a better place. Later on, I found out that she would always talk about um, there was people after her. This is when I became an adult. I started to hear that conversation because after my grandmother passed away, she had to have that conversation with me about the people who were after her. And she talked about that, um, for a while. I thought like, okay, maybe something is happening, and I would try to investigate and find out. And after a while, she's like, there's really no one there. And she would talk about the voices she heard through the walls and things like that. And this caused her to move many many times. I once helped her to move 3 times in one year. And after that happened, um, after the third time, I helped her move to a nice place in Hyde Park, a nice neighborhood in Chicago. And I get a call from her a few weeks later. I had to move out of that place because the people. And she had moved into Inglewood, which, as people in Chicago know, is one of the worst neighborhoods in Chicago. Sorry, Inglewood. It is what it is, uh, crime-wise. And she just moved there, and she called me, and I came over, and there was like just stuff packed everywhere. I mean, still unpacked, I should say. And she wrote down a name on a piece of paper, and through tears, she said, "I need to give this to this person and tell them to find out who's following me." And the name on the paper was then Attorney General Janet Reno. So I thought, I got no one. My brother's handicapped. I got no one I could consult with. My ex-wife, who I was with at the time, she had nothing to say. Like, other than most people I talked to, like, hey, I don't know what to tell you. It sucks to be you. So I made a decision, and I had her picked up with what they call a writ of detainment, which is something you pay $50 for, and they would take the person against their will to a place where they would be evaluated. And I really regretted that the minute that it happened because I went to her house when the people showed up and turned out to be just some cops, 2 cops in a paddy wagon, bloody paddy wagon, probably fresh from some body pickup somewhere or something. And they drove us from the south side of Chicago, Inglewood, to the north side of Chicago, to a hospital. And the whole while there, as we sat in the paddy wagon, uh, she said not a word to me. Once she arrived at the hospital, that's when she just cut loose with a diatribe like, I hate you, and all this other stuff, and just performed for everybody in the emergency room, let them know that her son, had brought her to the hospital against her will. And of course, I felt like shit, and I didn't know, did I do the right thing? And this one ER nurse, she's walked over to me and she said, "You did the right thing." You know, and that helped. So, but when she got there, she kind of put on the face like she often would do, and other people, and just like normal up, and just say, "Well, I'm fine." I don't know what he's talking about. Yeah, sure, this, that, and the other. But because of the nature of the writ, she had to remain there for, I think it was 48 hours, at least 48 hours. I think she ended up staying there maybe a little longer than that because she did accept to some degree, the counseling and the assistance that they offered her. And I never found out exactly what the diagnosis was, what the evaluation was, because they had me come in for a session where she was still pretty contentious and pretty mad at me for doing this to her. Um, but they never told me what exactly the diagnosis was. So that ended. Um, Years passed. She's actually was on medication for a while. She would go on and off medication the whole time. And then I remember seeing this one time we went to see this other quack of a doctor, also on the north side. After the doctor she was seeing, I guess, uh, either retired or somehow doctors pass on patients, I guess, who they don't like to other doctors, and he took her case. And this doctor, just like not knowing nothing about her, just like, this medication's too strong for you. Let's take you off. And she was like, "Oh, I knew something was wrong with it. This is not good." He didn't know anything about it. He didn't know anything about her past, relationship to me, or anything. He just took her off the medication, and that was the beginning of like her being off it most of the time. And I could probably look back on that as being, yeah, the beginning of the downward spiral. So trying to get to the end, basically we would we would go through periods where we wouldn't speak. Uh, Even though there was most of the time I would, she wanted me to call her every day, and I would call her every day, and sometimes she would have nothing to say. Just be like, "Okay, well, all right, I'll talk to you later," and it'd be nothing. Okay, well, you want me to call her every day, so and it'd be calling once a week, and then she would call and like, "Why didn't you call me? I could have been dead." I mean, if you had, what could I have done for you if you had been dead? And when I called you, you don't talk to me. And there was times I would go over to our house, and I just sometimes just you know invite myself over, and just if she liked KFC, I would bring something like that, or something, and we would just sit around. I tried to find things that we had in common. She liked basketball. I tried to talk about the Bulls. She liked the Lakers for some reason. I guess because she loved Magic Johnson. She'd always talk about how Magic Johnson is great and he's a nice guy and all this. Oh, I love Magic Johnson, but never in her whole life did she ever say to me that, "Son, I'm proud of you." I mean, like I'm all this great thing, but some of the worst ne'er do wells in the world, have their mom say how proud they are. So that kind of stuff that stayed with me. I still stayed by her side regardless through all that time. But there came a time like when I was, I guess, like right before we moved to Washington. Um, it was like 2015, um, and she was going through the whole moving thing all over again. And she had, against my wishes, and I told her I would help her move when her lease ended. She said that I got to move because of the people. Again, she started calling police. Police were coming because she found like tablets on the floor or pills on the floor that she didn't leave there. And the police were like, "What the hell are we doing here?" So it was getting to that point, and I was loath to do another because she was so angry and upset with me about the having her. I could have had her committed, but that to me is taking away someone's freedom, even though it's probably to the best interest that they take away their freedom. But is that really being their best interest? So I just hope for the best. Told her I would be there for her, and she ends up moving out of her apartment, breaking her lease, paying a fine, and moving into what was um, an assisted living facility. Uh, and these people, and I think these places, a lot of them are just scams. because they sign up and they take most of your retirement, and you know I just think everything's a scam because people are out there trying to screw you. And I think this was one of those places. And one of her church people, who she was way involved in the church, she trusted them more than she trusted me because they were not me. Advised her to move into this place. And that person ended up moving out of the place, by the way, and left her there. Another story. But she was staying in this place, and it was becoming difficult there for her because she was again, barricading herself into her apartment and just becoming antisocial with people who were there, and they were calling me and asking me to come get her. And at the time, um, Janet and I were preparing to move to Olympia. We were going to move out of state. I was 58 years old at the time. I thought, when am I going to start living my life? When is this going to happen? When do I get to have a life? I've stuck around for you um, all this time. It's just time for me to go, and I'm willing to stay in touch with you, but this is what's going to happen. This is me moving with my wife to another place where we think we can have a fresh start and more opportunities than we have here at this time. Um, she was kind of distant about that. She was not talking to me about that for a while, but I get the call one day where the head of the assisted facility unit says, "Look, we're going in and we're taking her to get evaluated. Okay, she locked herself in the apartment. You're not gonna do it. We're gonna do it. We're gonna take her in and have her evaluated." So they did, and and she was adamant about not having any kind of medication. Nope, I would not admit to that. She literally said, "I will die before I let that happen." So she calls me to come, like with a command. I need you to do is come. I need you to come pick me up, and I need you to get my stuff out of. Mom, we are days away from moving. I've told you this before. Now, if you let these people help you, then I will help you as much as I possibly can. But we are moving. Oh, that's okay then. Bye. And that was the last time we spoke. That was the last time we actually spoke on the phone. Um, I did not change my number. I've had the same number for probably decades, 2 decades. I still have a Chicago number. Um, she would always change her number. She discovered burner cell phones. She was very paranoid about talking on the phone. She discovered phones that you could just get and, change numbers like that. She was always in the cell phone shop getting a new phone. I would get calls from time to time from a new phone, and she would let me know it was her. That was before I left. After we left, um, I didn't know how to reach her because I didn't have a number, didn't have a current number. In fact, the facility that takes care of Chris was even contacting me from time to time because they couldn't contact her. But from time to time, she would call them back and say, "Well, this is my new number." So then they would stop calling me. The time came when one day she didn't call them back, and they called me for a couple of months. And I didn't know what to do because I didn't know anything about it. Didn't know where she was. She did not contact me, did not contact them. And one day I get a call from the insurance company of the USPS, and no, it was a letter. It was a letter from their insurance company saying that we regret to let you know that your mother has passed, and we will do what we can to make this process easy. So that's how I found out. And then I contacted, of course, Chris's caretakers and started a procedure to have him have me be his guardian. So that led to the trip to Chicago. Long story short, way too late that I began with about how I came to Chicago in February of 2020, right before the pandemic was breaking. Um, it was a cold weekend. It was, as you might imagine, in Chicago. It started snowing just as I got there, and kept snowing all the time I was there. All-Star basketball game was in town at the time, and not that it made a difference, but just that that's what was going on, and I was there like parts of 4 days. Flew in on a Wednesday, flew out on the Saturday, and the court date was on Friday, which was Valentine's Day. Uh, and I and the Thursday before the court date, um, I went to see Chris, my brother. I went to see him out at the facility and spend time with him out there. Uh, and on the way back, I stopped by the last known residence that my mother had. I wasn't really looking for closure, not really, because that's what is that, but just curiosity, I guess. Or I knew the neighborhood. I knew she lived in the Hyde Park neighborhood. Her last residence was in the Hyde Park neighborhood. So I had to talk to the people who were there, and there were still some things like memorabilia that she kept, like photos that I had no way of ever keep, of retrieving, because she kept those. Other things that she had kept, nothing of monetary value, but just sentimental value things. And so I was hoping that maybe some of it might be there. So you can see in the video that I made, it was just a little apartment building. It's kind of a single room occupancy kind of a place, I guess. It was, I don't know, once a hotel. Now it's small apartments. And I talked to the guy who was the janitor there. He didn't remember her really, because before he started working there, and he gave me the number of another guy who was the property manager, and ended up calling the property manager. And I spoke to the property manager, and he remembered my mother, because he was like, "Oh yeah, I remember." Because once people go through that kind of a thing on their property, it's hard to forget. And he said he remembered her saying all this while, "Is there any contact information for other people you want to give us?" And she would always tell him, "I'm all alone. I'm all alone in the world. I'm all alone in the world." And all the while, she had my number. And of course, I told him this, but people be judgmental. They always side on the side of the parent, because they think, "Oh, you should always honor and respect your parent," like I hadn't done that, you know. But there's a point when you just have to move on, no matter what. And and people that you love can drag you down and pull you under, because they've themselves given up. And I just was not ready for that. And I just had to go. I had to walk away. I had to walk away, and it was difficult. And I cried when I found out that she had died. I got that letter, but I had cried so much for her in the past, for our lack of a relationship. So I really had mourned. Uh, I mourned more then the day that I found out she died. I knew that then we would never ever have that relationship, and that made me more sad than actually the fact that she was gone, because in a sense she was gone a long time ago. I tried to stick around for long as much as I could, but I just have to live my life. If that makes me a bad person, then do your judgments, and I'm a bad guy. But I I really question anyone who would be in my shoes. Would you do the same thing? Would you do the same thing, or would you not do the same thing? You know, I'm not trying to judge anyone else. People are free to judge me if you want. I have no secrets. I live my life as an open book. I found that telling the truth and just having no secrets has been a godsend for me. Life is so much easier now that I tell the truth all the time, and now that I just be myself. Um, so it's all that's it. That's it I have on this Valentine's Day.